Dads from the Crypt.
Hello, boils and ghouls. Welcome to episode 217 of Dads from the Crypt. My name is Jason. Today, I'm joined by Jody.
Hello.
Hello. And we have a very special guest. We have Ashley from the Seeking Witchcraft podcast. Welcome, Ashley.
Hey there. Happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me on.
Oh, it's our pleasure. I love matching, podcasts with the movie that we're watching tonight. We'll be covering the VVitch. In the Old English, some might say. But why don't you tell us about yourself and your show?
Yeah, sure. So thanks again. Like you were saying, my name is Ashley. I host a podcast called Seeking Witchcraft. It is a podcast for those who are interested in learning more about witchcraft, who don't really know where to start. And so I started off with 30-minute just informational podcasts about some of the basics of the craft. And now it's kind of evolved into interviewing different authors or practitioners about their practice or whatever they are passionate about and sharing that in an easy, beginner-friendly format.
Love it. All right. Well, we're going to get much more in depth in that, but a couple of quick reminders. We do have a Patreon, and we have at least 2 mini episodes we're putting out every month. Previously, we have episodes on weapons and companion, and then Ichi the Killer, the Ugly Stepsister. Last month, we had some for Together and Him. We have some great ones coming up, including for Good Boy and the Begonia. Really good stuff. Check it out at the $3 and above level. Also, we have a free level for our podcast where you can vote on our polls to help decide, what we should be doing for the podcast. So we have a couple polls out there of whether you think we should be covering older classic movies, newer movies, more TV anthologies. So it doesn't cost anything to give us some feedback. So please check out our free Patreon. Of course, it's at Dads from the Crypt. All right. Well, like I said, tonight we're going to be covering The Witch. Jody, tell us what this movie's about.
Well, but before I get too deep into the synopsis, I have to.
Oh, yes. Tell us your story.
Why I wanted to talk about this movie again. So a couple nights ago, just a normal night, dark outside. And again, we live out in kind of a rural area. So when dark is not like it's dark, it's real dark. And so I sent my son out to get something out of the car, and he came running back in and said, "There's a goat out there." I was like, "What?" It's like, "A goat in our yard?" And I walked outside, and this big black goat with its big long horns comes walking around the side of our house. And after a while of hanging with the goat and trying to figure out where his owner is, I got to know the goat. We were cool together. We had a good time. I took a selfie with him. I'm not lying about any of this. We really did. We hung out for like an hour. But when I first saw him coming out of the darkness, this black goat, I immediately thought of this movie and immediately thought, well, this is a strange night. And watching this movie, it just brought me back to my feeling, that moment of just uncomfortable, what is this weirdness coming at me? I feel like that summarizes this movie pretty well, right?
Right. And also, we're just a few months away from the 10-year anniversary.
Wow. Jeez. I didn't like that.
Yeah, I just rewatched this movie right before this recording. I mean, I've seen this movie tons of times. I really love this movie a lot. But I was watching it with my boyfriend, and he turns to me and he's like, "Can you believe this movie's 10 years old?" And I was like, "What? What do you mean this movie's 10 years old?" I remember seeing the trailers for this before it even came out.
That's absolutely terrible news that it's 10 years old. I don't like that at all. But let's get to the plot now. Not in my backyard, but in the 1630s in New England, there is a Puritan family or some kind of, extreme.
Yeah, definitely Puritan.
Yeah. William and his family, wife Catherine, daughter Thomason, preteen son Caleb, and twins from hell, Mercy and Jonas. They're not really from hell, but they really get on my nerves. They might be. So they're banished from their bigger Puritan group. I like to assume it's because they're too strict. Like they go too far for the Puritans. And so they go out into the woods and they make a little homestead. Catherine has her 5th child, a little boy named Samuel. And one day, Thomason is taking care of her baby brother and doing the little like hide her face and say boo and hide her face and say boo. And then one of the times she hides her face, and when she reveals her face, the baby is gone. This, natural explanations. No, real quick, we see there is a witch in the woods. She kidnapped the baby and she used its blood to do magic. Like straight from the get-go, there is a supernatural thing happening to this family. I like that. So devastated by that loss, Catherine spends all her days crying and praying. She won't sleep. They keep saying a wolf took the child. William takes Caleb into the woods to go hunting, something they previously were not supposed to do because the woods are evil. If you remember from your Nathaniel Hawthorne books you had to study in high school, and Young Goodman Brown, the woods are the dark place. And so they go out into the woods and they talk about whether the baby's in heaven or not. And William reveals that he sold one of Catherine's prized possessions, a silver cup, to get some hunting supplies. And then back on the farm, the twins are playing with their billy goat, a big black goat with big horns called Black Phillip. And they say that Black Phillip can talk to them. And the little girl calls herself the Witch of the Woods. And Thomason gets tired of dealing with her little sister, as you do, and says, no, I'm a witch and I'm going to eat you and steal your soul. And I think maybe that was a bad move because the little girl definitely believes it. And as this story goes on, she will tattle on Thomason and say, yes, she's the witch. She's the witch. Because as things start going bad, very quickly, this family starts blaming supernatural things. Thomason and Caleb go out to check on a trap in the woods. And while they're out there, the horse gets spooked. Their dog runs off and is killed by something, and Caleb finds himself separated into the woods. He sees a beautiful woman who draws her to him and does something. We don't see what, but the next time we see Caleb, he is back at the farm, naked and feverish and kind of losing his mind, yelling all kinds of crazy things. And again, of course, they blame some supernatural thing, particularly a witch. And then very quickly, they start blaming Thomason for being the witch. She's a teenage girl. She is coming into maturity. We see some scenes of her, little brother kind of catching some glimpses of her chest as it's starting to grow. And it's making everyone feel uncomfortable with the new woman in their presence. And so they start blaming her and calling her a witch. I don't know how far I want to go. I mean, we did say this is 10 years old, so I don't really think I can spoil it. Things keep happening. Dad goes nuts and locks Thomason and the twins in a little shed so that he can kind of wait and see what's going to happen next. Caleb has a big moment and he dies. And then while they're in the shed, they hear something land on the roof. And then you see this old naked lady in the shed drinking the milk from Black Phillip, and everyone freaks out. And the next morning, William discovers the shed destroyed and Thomason alone there in the shed. As he is about to confront her as a witch again, Black Phillip stabs him with a horn and knocks him into a pile of wood, which collapses on him, killing him. And then Mom comes out, fully now convinced that Thomason is the witch, screaming at her, blaming her, and Thomason, in an attempt to save her own life, ends up killing her mother. So now the whole family's dead. Or at least I assume. Twins are gone, but everybody's dead. And so Thomason goes to Black Phillip, who the twins had previously said talked to them. And she says, if you're real, please talk to me, tell me something. I want something better than the life I have. And that's when Black Phillip speaks. We never see it, we just hear his voice. And he's asking, do you want to see the world? Do you want the taste of butter? Would you like to live, or excuse me, wouldst thou like to live deliciously? And Thomason takes and signs his book and walks naked out to a field where there are a bunch of other women in a circle with a fire. And the women one by one begin floating up into the sky with their magic as Thomason abandons, now that her family's dead, has decided to join forces with the witches and become one of them in pretty much the only way that you're going to have any kind of freedom in that society as a woman. So is it a happy ending and is it an evil ending? Yeah, maybe both end. So yeah, that's the story.
I love
Thank
this.
you, Jody.
I love the ending.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I thought it was
All right.
happy.
Well, we'll unpack that. But Ashley, you are our guest and the witchcraft expert here. So tell us what you think about this movie.
Well, first I want to back up and say I did hear that there was actually a deleted scene that tells you what happens to the twins.
Oh,
So I mean, I wouldn't want to say spoiler alert because we just said what happens at the end of the movie. But if you're curious or don't want to know,
No, go ahead.
apparently the scene in the barn where Thomason and Mercy and Jonas are essentially nailed in there, and they're there overnight, and then in the middle of the night they hear the person come on the roof, and then they see the hag who is drinking from the goat. The deleted other part of that scene is that the hag then stabs and kills both of the twins. And there is a rumor that at the very end of the movie, they use the fat from the twins to help them with their ritual to fly in their flying women, which I can get into in a bit. I rewatched the very end of the scene where people were trying to say that the twins' bodies were in the back. I didn't see the twins' bodies. I saw some pots and pans. But when I found that out, I was like, I wish they had not deleted that. I think that would have been.
It makes them more evil.
Yeah, I think it would have added more context to what happened to the whole family. Even though I will agree, I did not like the twins at all. I thought they were also annoying.
No, I mean, there's not a lot of times that I'd say like, boy, I wish they left the scene of the kids getting killed. But in this case, I'm like, okay, fine.
They kind of had it coming.
Yeah, really obnoxious.
But yeah, to answer your question, I mean, I love this movie. I will say the basis of this movie is definitely on the Puritan Christian view of what they thought witchcraft was back then, but in reality, not really what the craft actually is. There's absolutely some things within the movie like flying ointments and familiars that have a place in modern practice and even practice back then. But the way that it is shown in the movie is in a more horror form, I could say, especially like with the baby fat in the beginning of the movie. That is definitely supposed to be like a shock factor. But that was what people back in those times would claim that witches would do. So it's not historically inaccurate to the beliefs of those times, but in terms of the craft as a whole, I don't think a lot of people were really doing that at all. I can't say that there wasn't a single person in the history of the earth or in the Puritan times who maybe did not do that. But I would say that was more of just a rumor and a stereotype of what was actually going on.
So like a 16th century satanic panic.
Like, exactly.
Like maybe somebody's out there doing it, but most people aren't.
Yeah, and so the movie like The Witch, and also not to jump topics, but also The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. They both have a similar thread where they're both based on the Christian view of what witchcraft is, which is having a pact with the devil and dark magic and worshiping Satan or Lucifer or whatever their interpretation of that is. But in reality, that's not actually how it goes. So yeah, it's interesting to see, that's and Sabrina would be like the more modern interpretation of that. The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, I should say, where the witch is the old school Puritan version of that.
Well, so then do you find it like an offensive view, or just like, oh, haha, like comedy, this is what the stupid people used to think? How do you interpret that?
That's a really good question. I mean, I wouldn't say it's offensive in the sense of like it's historical and it is historically accurate of the times. But then, all these decades later, here I am, and this year having to explain to people when they first find out that I practice witchcraft, I'm Wiccan, I'm pagan, that no, I'm not sacrificing babies. No, I'm not worshiping the devil. There are certainly people that do work with Satan in their craft. There's like the Satanic Temple that they don't even view Satan as a being. It's more of a concept for like free will and freedom of speech and women's rights and things like that, which then I have to go into that if people want the overall depth of what's going on. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely the connotations from the Puritan days that have followed through to 2025, upcoming 2026, that I will have to sit and explain to those who are willing to listen, at least. So yeah, it's interesting to see how much that has influenced through modern day.
All right, Jody.
Yeah, I haven't watched this movie in a while. Probably not too long after it came out. But I remember really liking it back then. But rewatching it this time, I think I liked it even more. This is a movie that really holds up on the rewatch, even knowing where it was. I think actually knowing where it was going added to the dread of it all, because like there is no hope in this situation other than aligning with the devil by the end of the movie. And by the end of the movie, that actually seems like a pretty good option, and so I think it helps make, like, this is not a movie that's full of like big scares or gory scenes. Like there's some blood, but it's not going for that. It's more just this intense atmosphere of dread. Like these people are fucked from the get-go, and you feel it in every second, like witch or not. Like just the being out here on their own and trying to raise crops and sustenance farm, like they're not going to survive. This is bad. It's always a bad situation, and it just gets worse. And I feel like that dread and that oppressive atmosphere really works well. It's got some great iconic moments, like Black Phillip with his "Wouldst thou live deliciously?" "Wouldst thou like to live deliciously?" It's a great line. It's a great scene, and the culmination of all the stuff that it's been leading up to. I feel like it's just where else could it go? This girl had nowhere else to go. And so by the end of the movie, it makes perfect sense that she joined with the witches that destroyed her family, because maybe it wasn't so bad that her family got destroyed, but yeah, it's really good. I'm really glad I rewatched it. It's been a long time, and it was definitely worth it. I really, really, really like this movie.
I have a bit of a complicated relationship with this movie, because again, this is Robert Eggers' first like big movie, and he almost created this like very distinct style of very naturalistic, period specific or period accurate filmmaking, which I really appreciate. But like the first time you see it, it's almost disorientating, because he used like actual writings from the time to base how the characters are talking. And I can never say his name right. Ralph Ineson. He has this like amazing gravelly voice, like one of the best deep voice, like James Earl Jones type of voice. But between that and the language, it's really hard to understand them. So I remember the first time I saw this, I was like, I don't understand half of half of the dialogue here.
Yeah, if I had one complaint, that would be it. Is just that.
Well,
I kind of had. I watched this with my daughters, and I don't like turning on subtitles unless I have to. And so I told them early on, I'm like, you're gonna not understand some of what they're saying. Just kind of make sure you can follow the plot,
Yeah.
The first time I watched it was without subtitles, and I think I did that on hard mode.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, there's a point where you in life where you're like, not everything needs to be at least intentionally on hard mode. So what I've learned with every Robert Eggers movie is just turn on subtitles. It makes The Lighthouse better. It made what's his other movie with the Viking one?
Northman.
Yeah, it just makes all those movies like much easier to go down. But so it's definitely a style that like the first time I saw it, I'm like, I get it, but I don't know if I love this. or there was like a weird barrier. But every time I've seen it since, I do love it more and more. Whereas like I think The Lighthouse, the first time I saw it, I was like, oh, this movie's amazing, because I just turned on the subtitles and I knew what I was in for.
Well, I think they said a lot of the dialogue was historically accurate, like found in journals and writings,
like
which
actual lines.
That's so impressive to take those
Mm-hmm.
writings and mold that into a script that made a whole hour and a half long movie that made sense too once you watched it.
Well, and supposedly his original script was like five acts, and like it kept changing perspectives from person to person. I think that would have been way too much. So I think this movie, as on a linear plot level, is actually relatively simple, but it's just made so amazingly, because the lighting, I love the lighting in this, because it's very naturalistic. It's just, this is the light during the day, this like during like they're just using natural lighting for most of it. Anya Taylor-Joy plays the daughter, and this is like her first big role. I think all the actors do amazing jobs. The father is such an interesting character in a way, because he's like this, like, you can tell that he's the kind of guy who thinks he knows what's best and wants to tell everyone what they're doing wrong, to the point where he left England because they weren't letting the Puritans practice how they wanted to. And when he got there, like, you can tell he was the kind of guy that no one probably wanted to hang out with, because he just was such a schmuck about everything. Because he's even telling the Puritans that they're not doing it right, so they banish him. So he has to drag his whole family. He's not a good hunter. Like, he tries to shoot this like insane gun that they carry around, and like hits him in the face. He can't catch anything. He can't grow anything. And he steals his wife's silver cup, which I guess is like the one like quote nice thing that she has, to sell for traps. Which, again, okay, tell your wife, like, okay, we're in desperate situation. We need food. Can I sell your cup? But like, he like lies to her about it, and
I felt like he was doing that guy thing of everything's falling apart, but he's still trying to like maintain the illusion, like, we got it under control. We'll be fine. We'll be fine. Like, dude, just admit that there's a problem and you can actually do something about it.
Well, I think that's related to, there's a theory for this movie that every single person in the family is related to one of the 7 deadly sins, with the father being pride.
Yeah, for sure.
That makes sense.
So like the only thing he's really good at is going out and cutting wood. Because like there's like a scene where it's just like, it's the middle of the night, it's raining, I'm gonna go cut some wood. And I don't know if there's like some masculinity thing there, but then of course, like when he dies, he literally gets buried by this huge mound of wood that he's been working on this entire time. He's just consumed by his one hobby, for lack of a better term.
Hey, I guess when that's your day-to-day life, like chopping wood probably is a hobby.
Yeah. What else? There's a lot of people talk about like the good for her type of movie, but like in the moment it is, but also I was kept thinking about while watching it this time was Midsommar.
100%.
Really hits almost beat for beat in a lot of ways. And they kind of end with their main character finding this new community and all their old family literally dead. And they have like a moment of elation. But then I always think about, what's the next day like for these people? Are they going to put her to work? Is she going to have to like, start betting with whoever they tell her to? Like, what is it really a good situation, or is she just going into another system of control?
I mean, these were the actual witches who killed her family too. And again, maybe she had problems with her family, but she probably didn't want them all dead, I'm assuming.
Right. And it's not like the family died of their own actions. The witches are the ones that started the whole thing. Like, and I will say, as a parent, that scene where she's playing peekaboo and the child that disappears without trace is terrifying. That's one of the most viscerally terrifying moments, I think, in any film. Of just, losing a child is like one of a parent's biggest fears, but to have it happen like literally within arm's reach when she closed her eyes for like 3 seconds. Yeah. So it's like, it's not like this was a terrible family and these witches saved her to go off and live great. It's kind of like they kind of manipulated the family as well. So it's one of those, it's a good for her moment, but kind of through lies and deceits and all the setup. not to bring it down, but Ashley, what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a child, but I mean, as somebody who has taken care of children, the idea of taking a child under my care and then being the one to lose them is horrifying. I couldn't even imagine what that'd be like. And I think it's even interesting that later in the movie, when the father's trying to console the mother, and he's like, well, he says this in Old English, but he pretty much says to her, like, we've done really, really good so far. We haven't lost a single child yet. And I think he's kind of, pointing to the fact that back then having 5 kids without a single one having died yet at that moment was a pretty big accomplishment of the days.
Especially twins. Like that's a really hard thing to do back then.
I mean, and to have 5 children when C-sections were probably not a thing, and pain medication, I'm sure, was not readily available the way it is today. Good on her for going through that. But I'm sure that just, confounded her pain of losing her children.
Right. And it's someone else. I was just listening to a couple of videos earlier. One of them was talking about this is kind of like an Adam and Eve story.
Yes. I heard about that, where when they leave the initial plantation, it's like they're cast out of the Garden of Eden. And then there's a symbolism where Caleb, at the very end, before he dies, he chokes or vomits up a full apple.
Yeah.
And then, the kids are being tempted by a talking animal. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting themes and allegories happening. I mean, obviously Robert Eggers is an extremely talented writer, and then the fact that he can weave this stuff in, but without being like knock you over the head with it. The things that you just kind of like little threads you can pull apart.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
One thing that I mentioned it when I was doing the synopsis. One thing that I appreciate about this, because this is one of the first times I remember like the quote unquote elevated horror movie, like this is the artsy type horror movie, but it doesn't do what a lot of them do, which is like avoid the supernatural. Like a lot of elevated horror, whatever, you find out, oh, well, this is actually just a metaphor. This is, this is about grief, or this is about, a family, the family dissolving or whatever. No, this is about a scary witch in the woods. Like from the get-go, there's a lot of other stuff happening, but she's there. We see her very early on and she's scary. And so I appreciate that this movie doesn't try to like trick the audience, because it's for me, it's a bummer at the end of a movie when they're like, oh, there was nothing supernatural after all. What did I just watch? I just watched somebody's like mental breakdown. Like I want to watch a scary movie with scary things. And so I appreciate that this one doesn't try that route. A lot of the stuff that followed did, but this one was just what it was.
What's funny is there is actually some very subtle hints in the movie where, so I will say, I agree with you. I think at the end of the day in the movie, there were a coven of witches and Black Phillip was trying to get her to sign in the book to join the witches. And I think that's really what happened at the movie. But there were some very small details in the movie that could like allude to an idea where they were hallucinating or being paranoid through the ergot, which was a fungus that's on the corn, because they talk about how their corn is rotting. And that is the same fungus that caused the paranoia during the Salem witch trials. Right. And caused people to say, oh, they're a witch. So I saw them dancing and were flying to the Sabbath. But in reality, they were tripping on a nature's version of LSD. Yeah. So it's interesting that they had that in this movie. And it was just a little nugget here and there. They would you would see it in the corner, the rotting corn. And there was like one scene where the father was holding it and made a very small reference, and then never said anything again, really. Which I thought was like really cool to insert that in this movie as well.
Yeah, it leaves some ambiguity there, but at the same time, I don't feel like it's just ambiguity. It's like it actually is trying to tell a specific thing, but there is a lot of room for you to go, okay, so what about this now?
Yeah, and at the same time, it doesn't really show that much. We don't get like these like full looks. And again, this is a relatively low budget first time director movie. With people that are bigger stars now, but at the time, were relatively unknowns. So like again, the whole Black Phillip scene, we were only seeing it from her face reacting
Mhm.
to that, and partly because they said the goat was really tough to work with.
Yeah.
I did hear
Um,
that.
So, but I think it's kind of like one of those Jaws things where it's better
Mhm.
to not see, the monster, and let your mind kind of do that, and then we kind of like hear, instead of hooves, like a sound of like a large person, like with like and they're like
Right.
robes. We see like a shadow kind of come over her of a big man, just enough to tell us what we need to know without showing us too much.
I
Yeah,
love that before he comes up, when Thomason is in the kitchen, just slumped over and sleeping, how she wakes up to the sign of chimes. Because it kind of gives like this feeling of like hope and renewal and like something magical in like a lighthearted way. Um, After all this death and darkness that was essentially enclosing her. But then, the chimes very quickly go away and Black Phillip appears as the devil. But I always thought that was like a really nice artistic touch to have that be what wakes her up.
Yeah.
Almost like a meditation gong.
Yeah, it's like an invitation, like
Mhm.
like an initiation. Like, oh, we're gonna bring you into this, and it's nice and welcoming.
Yeah. I was
So
just also
Jason,
thinking. Yeah, go ahead.
you were also talking about how they don't show some things, like what happens with Caleb.
Yeah.
Caleb meets the pretty lady in the woods, and we don't know what happened, but it's pretty obvious. It's pretty bad. I don't know what it is. It lets your imagination try to come up with how did this boy end up in this state when he gets back to the farm, and anything I can think of is bad.
Yeah, Ashley, what's your read on that?
So there were talks historically about people being witched, and they would come
Mhm.
back in kind of like this crazed, dazed, manic episode like Caleb was. In terms of the movie, I mean, I agree. I think it just kind of leaves some thought to the imagination of like, oh my gosh, well, what happened? Because even when I watched it, I was like, oh, I wonder what exactly went down there. I mean, you don't want to assume the worst, but also he dies. So so
Right.
obviously something pretty intense happens. And I as just an aside, I will say that performance from that
Yes.
actor was one of the
Yeah.
best
Yes.
performances I have seen, especially
really
from
good.
somebody of his age at the time. I mean, it's chilling to have that religious ecstasy just where he, I don't know, he appears and chokes up the apple. And I mean,
Mhm.
10 out of 10 performance for that kid. I mean, he did an amazing, fantastic
Well,
job.
Yeah.
and then there's that creepy ass fox scene where he like appears to the mother.
Mhm.
Oh,
She
yeah.
and like he's you can tell that's not him, and she's she's breastfeeding Sam the baby, and it's not Sam the baby, it's a crow. It's like,
Yeah.
oh
Yeah. And then she wakes up and then has the blood on the front of her gown, and it just says nothing, as if nothing happened.
Right.
yeah,
Yeah,
She's like,
because that scene almost lets you think that it's just in her head until you see the blood after it.
Mhm.
I
which
just
again is a great show don't tell thing.
yeah, and that it does a lot of that. Like I said, with the scene with Caleb, I think what makes it so uncomfortable is that she's been like seducing him because Caleb is just waking up to the idea of girls and starting to have this interest. And then he sees this pretty lady in the woods and she draws him in close. And the next thing we see is he's naked. I don't know what happened in between there. I feel like it does a good job and it plays on each individual's person's weaknesses too. And I think that's really cool. The father being killed by his own wood, the mother being consumed by her own paranoia. And poor Caleb, he's just turning 13, man. It sucks. But you're very weak at that point.
Yeah, I
Then it's
mean,
what becoming broom butter.
Yeah.
he was starting to have thoughts of lust, and then it's kind of interesting that he dies
Mhm.
through religious ecstasy.
Yeah.
Is this I'm not going to make each of you rank your Robert Eggers movie favorite Robert Eggers movie. Is this your favorite one, Jody, or do you prefer one of his others?
I don't know, man. I think this probably is my favorite just from the simplicity of it all. Great performances, and it's a very, simple story. I like a lot of this stuff. I during the time that quote unquote elevated horror was really like a thing, I got really turned off to a lot of it because I got tired of this whole discussion of like, this is the real horror. This is the good stuff that the, artists like. And so it kind of turned me off to a bunch of it for a long time. And I've had to come back around to not have that kind of like instinctive, like, oh, this is artsy, I don't like it. But this one always appealed to me. And so I feel like this probably is my favorite of his movies.
What about you, Ashley?
I would say this is definitely my favorite of his movies. I loved The Lighthouse. I will say, I was a big Twilight fan back in my high school days, and seeing Robert Pattinson in a not Edward Cullen role was honestly so cool. Like you could tell he works very hard to get away from Edward Cullen, and he does a fantastic job. He's a great actor. Seeing him in The Lighthouse was really cool, and with William Dafoe, I mean, that was a fantastic movie. I love Nosferatu. That was great. The Northman I enjoyed. It wasn't my favorite movie of all time, but I thought it was good. I did think it was funny that Alexander Skarsgård played the main character, the Northman, when he played Eric Northman in True Blood, who was also a Viking vampire. So thought that was kind of ironic. But no, I would say that The Witch was fantastic. It definitely my favorite movie. And to touch on that idea of like this like high horror. As I've gotten older, I always, when I was younger, I loved, the jump scare movies like Insidious or the Conjuring movies, things like that. But as I've gotten older, I really, sometimes I don't want to hear like teenagers yelling in a movie theater when I'm watching a movie. I kind of just want to know the plot, and I don't need like all the screaming to happen. I kind of just want to see what's going to happen. And I love how movies like The Witch give you this unsettling or this unsettled feeling. That's really what I love in horror, and I seek out, and I find it sometimes hard to find films like that nowadays. So I'm grateful that there are movies in this genre that kind of fit that.
Yeah. I kind of put The Lighthouse as just as a personal preference above this one. This is just a really amazing movie, especially for a first-time director. But William Dafoe and Robert Pattinson just playing off of each other like that for entire movie is just
performances are excellent.
Yeah. And I guess it might have to do with I was a little more calibrated to the movie the first time I saw it. But I mean, it's like kind of like a 1A 1B situation because they're both very, very good.
Yeah.
All right, let's move to our episode rating. We do 0 to 5, 5 being the absolute best, 0 being the worst. You can do half points. Jody.
Yeah, I'm going to go with a 4.5 on this one. The only thing that keeps it from being 5 is just like you said, even knowing that the dialogue is kind of hard to get through, I still prefer not to use subtitles if I can help it. And so I do miss a little bit of what's happening because of that. But I also appreciate it at the same time,
So, Jody, you just reach the age where you just accept subtitles and just put them on for everything.
I can't unless it's in another language. If it's another language, no problem. I have no problem with it. This practically is in another language, though, and so I probably should. But yeah, no, 4.5 for this one. It's fantastic. Not perfect, but really, really good.
All right, Ashley.
I would also give it a 4.5 for reasons, Jody, that you mentioned with the subtitles. I think that it definitely adds to the movie to have the language that they do, but it's kind of hard to get through. The other reason I would give it a 4.5 is because there's enough moments in the movie where it's a little ambiguous and you kind of have to come to your own conclusions about what happens. And I don't like that they took out the deleted scene with the twins because they're the only family members that you don't actually know what happened to them.
Yeah.
And like, you don't know what happened to Caleb, but you eventually get to see his death. And same with the other parents. So I would have liked them to at least close that circle with the whole family. But
you do bring up a good point that like she doesn't even ask or look for these other kids. Like they might be little shits, but like she's not even worried about them. And I think it's just one of those movie things that, like in the cutting room floor, we just don't have a scene. We can't go back and refilm that. So we're just gonna skip over it, and then it does kind of leave a little bit of a hole there.
Well,
exactly.
I think if they'd had included that final scene that you were talking about with if they had been there and they were being used in the ritual, that would have made the ending even darker. That Thomason, chooses to like use her own siblings as part of this ritual. Like, Yeah, that's dark stuff. Like I think I would have liked that better. It would have, I think, made it even stronger of an ending.
Yeah, I think it would have added something for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to 4.5. I mean, this is a very hugely influential, amazingly
Mhm.
made movie. It just doesn't. It's just like that one smidge. And again, I'm more of a Lighthouse guy, anyways. But
Just love those
again,
mermaids.
yeah, those mermaids, man. Whew, those anatomically correct mermaids. All right. Well, that's our review of The Witch. We're going to take a quick break for a shout out.
Hi, this is Jack Shoulder. I'm the director of Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge, and you are listening to Dads from the Crypt.
Cool.
That's friend of the pod, Jack Shoulder. We have a great interview with him. We discuss obviously Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Alone in the Dark, and the Tales from the Crypt episode, Fitting Punishment, that he directed. So go check that out on your feed. Ashley, I know you have to go soon, so we're going to switch things up a little bit, and we're going to do our quote parenting advice section first. So you can, get going. But, you talk a lot about different aspects of, being pagan, being Wiccan in, modern life. So you recently did an episode where you had some people talk about parenting. I was wondering if you could share some of what they talked about.
Yeah, sure. So let me reorient myself to that. So for
Mhm.
those who haven't heard that episode, so I have a student, and she, at the time of the recording, was pregnant. She has now given birth, and her son, as of right now, just turned 1 month old. So very exciting.
Aw.
She wanted some advice from somebody who is pagan, who already has a child. And so I have another friend who is a pagan parent. And so I brought the two of them together on this episode and kind of moderated as they talked with each other about what does it mean to be a parent or pagan parent, and like what does that world kind of look like. And so my student got to ask a lot of questions, and the person with the real life experience, she got to answer a lot of questions, and I got to be a fly on the wall. It was really cool. They asked a lot of questions like, do you get your child involved in your spiritual practice? How do you celebrate things like the holidays, like Christmas time? Things like, how do you deal with potentially snobby PTA moms when you were practicing an alternative religion? I can't remember everything that was talked about, but I do remember chiming in with my own opinions about that. As I mentioned, I don't have any kids. One day in the future, I would hope to. So it's something I've thought about. As somebody myself who was raised very Catholic in a very strict religious household, while I currently love my religion right now, I don't think it's anything I'd ever want to force on my kids. And that seemed to be the general theme of the discussion as well, of getting children involved in little bedtime rituals, like saying goodnight to the moon and hello to the sun, like little things like that. Little like pagan themed storybooks, children's books you can find online. But really having kids come to their own conclusions. I know the person who was a parent said something about how their kid was starting to enter that age where they just want to kind of rebel and do their own thing. And so the last thing the mother wanted to do was push any sort of religion, because they were at the age where anything the mom says, they were going to do the complete opposite.
So the kid was like, you know what, Wiccan mom, I'm going to go to church.
Yep. But at the end of the day, I think that everyone's spiritual journey is their own. And, if I had a child who wanted to learn more about Judaism or Catholicism or really any tradition, any religion, I mean, I found the one that works for me. And so it wouldn't be my decision to make for my child of what they would like to do. And I wish I was awarded that religious freedom when I was a kid.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting discussion because I'm Jewish, but how I was raised and everything, and there's always been like, how do you raise a Jewish kid in a predominantly Christian society and Christian schools and stuff, and it's kind of a universal thing for anyone that isn't like normal, quote unquote, majority of whatever society you happen to be in. So, it's an interesting universal topic for parents. But
Yeah,
I
I mean,
appreciate those insights.
of course. I mean, this is kind of timely, but kids that are not raised in Christian households sometimes have one of the biggest secrets they have to keep, which is that Santa Claus is sometimes not. You know what? I don't want to give a spoiler in case there's any children listening.
No, I
but-
was a kid who went around school telling everyone that Santa Claus wasn't real.
Oh, see, I celebrate Santa Claus Christmas. I don't celebrate Jesus Christmas, but I'll put up my tree next to my Yule log, and I'll put a little star at the top and have my presents.
That's as pagan as it gets.
Pretty much, yep.
All right, Ashley, you're welcome to stay, or you're welcome to take off as you need to. I know you have work in the morning and you're on the other coast.
I can stay for a little bit longer. Okay,
perfect. All right, we'll do our song of the day, which I think you might appreciate to some degree at least. I was trying to find. I decided to cheat a little bit and go to Chat GPT and said, "Find me a list of songs about witches without the word witch in the title," just to make it. Thing. And then the first like 3 songs were all by Stevie Nicks.
I was gonna say, is it like Rhiannon and Crystal and Dreams or something like that?
I mean, I'm a big fan of Gold Dust Woman. I remember I have a weird way of coming to that song because The Crow was a huge movie, and the soundtrack was a big deal when I was a kid and like in middle school, whatever. And then when the second one came out, I remember they started pumping up the soundtrack, and I remember the soundtrack came out before we saw the movie, which was probably for the better. Because I got the soundtrack because it had like a cover of like "I'm Your Boogeyman" by Rob Zombie and a bunch of other stuff, but they had a cover of Gold Dust Woman by Courtney Love, which is actually a really good cover, I thought. Regardless, the song I decided to choose was is it Sisters of the Moon off the
I love that movie. That's a good one. Not that movie, I'm sorry. I love that song.
Yeah, I wasn't that familiar, but I kind of like listened to a couple different ones, and it's a really, really good song. It's got the vibe.
It has like a nice upbeat to it.
Yeah, exactly. And it definitely seems like I picture like in an alternate universe where that song starts playing as Thomasin is walking through the woods naked. It's kind of like crescendos to her, like levitating in the air. It would almost fit like with a different director.
I can totally see that.
It's kind of like there's this Instagram I follow where like they have a theory that Born to Run like can work with any movie's ending.
Mm-hmm. I've seen that. It's fun.
Yeah, because I love that song too. I'm like, yeah, Sisters of the Moon definitely works in that capacity in this movie. Great song. Stevie Nicks is awesome. You can't go wrong with that. All right, that's.
I was gonna say, I don't know how tuned in you are to paganist music, but High Lung is a really good one if you want to feel like some ancestral, like deep feelings.
You said High Lung?
Yes, Heilung, I believe it's spelled. If you listen to the first time, you're gonna feel like you're on like a Viking ship. I'm not gonna lie to you, but they're great. They're great, and I've seen them live a couple times. It's
cool.
It's a pretty cool band.
Last week we did the movie The Deathstalker remake. I don't know if you're familiar. Like a swords and sorcery kind of remake. Really good. I recommend it. And Mondo, he usually does this segment, is very in tune with very random metal music. And he used a song by a band called Castle Rat. And I've been listening to them all week because it's really, really good.
Yeah. Every now and I'm not a big metal guy, but every now and then Mondo will say something that just piques my interest. I mean, last week he said something, Lord of the Rings theme metal band. I'm like, okay,
yes,
all right, let's go.
One of 9.
Yeah.
Yeah, like something I just like. I only have like time for like 1 or 2 songs when I walk to pick my kids up, so that's why I usually try to sneak those in. But good stuff.
Real quick before we move on to the news, though, Spotify Wrapped came out today, where they talk about Jason. How old does your Spotify think you are?
Okay, Spotify. So there's a running joke on the podcast. I'm like ancient. But Spotify apparently agrees with that assessment. It said your listening age is 74. So
wow.
You were into music from the late 70s. You're an old soul. I went through a Pink Floyd phase this couple times this year, but like also at the top of my like most listened to artist and songs, it was all Olivia Rodrigo because that's what my daughter wants to listen to in the car, and if she doesn't get that way, then we're all miserable. So I just acquiesce. And even my YouTube was like daily dose of internet and funny cat videos and Fortnite videos, like because my son uses my YouTube on the TV.
I was just really amused that our long-running joke that Spotify said, yeah, you know what? I think you are a 75-year-old or 74-year-old man.
Well, you know what's funny is I'm in my early 30s and I got 62, but I also got the same message as you where it says, since you were into music from the late 70s, you're an old soul.
No, mine was 60s.
Oh, I see.
So
yeah, I was surprised. I was surprised to even get late 70s because earlier this year for my birthday I had an 80s goth themed birthday party, and so I was listening to a lot of 80s music. I made like a 16-hour playlist just because it was so much fun. And I'm shocked it didn't say an age associated with the 80s instead of the 70s.
Well, I just want to point out mine said I was 34, so young at heart. I gained 10 years.
Oh boy. All right. Well, thank you for that, Jody. Gosh. To everyone that has dads from the Crypt as their top listened to podcast, shout out to you. Thank you so much for your support.
Yeah.
All right, Jody, give us some horror news.
All right. I don't have a ton this week because when you have kids, sometimes you have a day where you have a plan and then you don't get to do any of it, like nothing at all. And so I had to scramble tonight. But I do want to talk about some upcoming releases. We're in December. We got some stuff coming out worth keeping an eye out for. We'll talk about those trailers in just a minute, Jason. But first, coming out, I guess, in just a couple days, Five Nights at Freddy's 2 is something my 9-year-old is thrilled for. He liked the first one a lot. And I thought the first one was fine. The second one actually does look a little scarier from the trailers. So, we're going to watch it because he's going to want to, but it doesn't look bad. And then the next week, one for me, the Silent Night, Deadly Night remake releases in theaters. And they just released a new trailer that's like an 80s retro trailer, and it looks so good. I am willing to look past Mr. Roland Campbell's past by being in Halloween Ends and give him another chance just because it's this movie. If he lets me down again, I'm done. I can't take another Halloween Ends type disappointment. But
Joey, did you see the quote internet controversy about Quentin Tarantino's best of 2000s list or whatever?
I haven't.
Like he bashed on Let There Be Blood because of Paul Dano.
Okay, yeah, I did see that. I do remember hearing the Paul Dano slander.
Okay, Jody's having his Tarantino Paul Dano moment.
Yeah. Another one coming out that same day on Shudder is Influencers, the sequel to Influencer, which I just rewatched recently. It's really good. It holds up, I think.
Really good. Yeah.
So very excited for the sequel. Same lead actress.
I don't know if living in LA, I'm just really drawn into quote influencer horror. It just really tickles me.
It's been pretty good. Like I've been into it. Also one more that day in theaters, Brian Fuller's new movie, Dust Bunny, which I really don't know a whole lot about other than Brian Fuller's in charge of it. And so it looks really interesting. There's a hitman involved in it and Mads Mikkelsen's in it, like weird stuff.
Is it like a secret Hannibal revival?
Could be.
Cool.
Also want to talk TV real quick before I get to the trailer because I'm building up to this. But TV, Welcome to Derry. I've been watching that. I have stayed on top of it.
We should talk about that.
I like
on
it.
a different episode.
Yeah, I won't get too into it, but I've been enjoying it. It has the same problems that the movies did. That Andy Muschietti loves CGI so much, but like story wise, character wise, I'm really enjoying the show, and I'm excited to see what they do with it. The guy they've got playing, for The Shining, Dick Halloran, he's so good.
Oof, so good.
The one who plays the mom, the actress from Toxic Avenger. She's the love interest in Toxic Avenger.
Oh, I didn't put that together.
Yeah, and she's so good. But yeah, Welcome Derry, great. I'll talk more about that in something else. I also watched the first chunk of Stranger Things episodes that came out, and I love this series. Like, I'm an easy sell for it, but I feel like this season's just as good as the ones that came before, building up to some cool stuff. But the main thing I want to talk about that came out today is the full trailer for Ready or Not 2, Here I Come. And we got to finally figure out what this movie's about. So immediately after the last movie, I was trying to figure out how could you make a sequel to that? You know, that it was self-contained. They played a game. That's the end of the movie. But this one starts right afterwards, where she wakes up in a hospital bed with a handcuff on. And I will spoil what happens in the trailer. Okay, I can't spoil the movie, but I will spoil what happens in the trailer. And we find out that there was a much bigger group of people who had made deals with the devil of some kind. And so by defeating the one family, now she has summoned the rest of the families, like the leadership of all of them. And whoever wins this game of hide and seek basically gets the world in some way. And she doesn't want to participate because she just got finished doing this. And that's when they reveal that they have her sister and they're threatening to kill her, played by Catherine Newton. And so, yeah, more hide and seek. The cast on this is awesome. You got David Cronenberg in an acting role, which I always love seeing him in acting roles. Sarah Michelle Gellar is in it. It looks.
And she's like bringing high camp to it too.
Yeah. I mean, this.
Of course, we have Elijah Wood as like the organizer or the leader. Oh, so good.
Yeah. This movie knows exactly what it is too, and it looks like it's just gonna try to have fun and have a good time. You get to see one person explode in the trailer. I won't reveal who, but yeah, you know, explosions and hide and seek and Samara Weaving and all this other cast. It looks fun. I'm into it.
Is it Radio Silence again, or is it someone
Radio
else?
Silence, yeah. So they wrote and directed it again.
Cool.
And they haven't let me down yet. So yeah, good stuff.
All right. Well, thank you, Jody. All right. Well, that wraps up the episode. Ashley, thank you so much for joining us. Why don't you tell everyone where they can find you and your content?
Oh, of course. Thank you so much for having me. I had so much fun discussing this. You can find me on Instagram at Seeking Witchcraft, or you can find me on Facebook at Seeking Witchcraft Podcast. And if anybody is not able to find me on either of those, you can send me an email at seekingwitchcraft@gmail.com.
Awesome. All right. Well, we appreciate everyone for listening. We'd really appreciate it if you'll give us a rating and review on iTunes, a rating on Spotify, a like and subscribe on YouTube, and you can follow us at Dads from the Crypt Talk on TikTok. And with that, I thank you for listening to.
And if Dads from the Crypt was your most listened to podcast on your Spotify Wrapped, let us know. That's awesome. Yeah. I'd love to see that.
Definitely. We'll each send you a strand of our beard hair so you can do something.
Okay.
Witchy with it, maybe. All right. You threw me off my game, Jody. Yeah. But as always, we thank you for listening to Dads from the Crypt.
Follow Dads from the Crypt on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, or I will follow you to the grave. No, seriously, you really should watch. But be careful what you ask for. You may get it.